Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with KADY TV, with a version of Good Morning Ventura County. And as usual, we have people who have great significance in our community, and so we've invited Doss Williams, and he is the Assembly member of District 37. And I always want to make sure I get that number right, because I'm not very good with numbers. But he is definitely somebody, when I read his profile, is going to have significant difference in our community. And we're real fortunate to have him here today. So I'd like to have him talk more than me. That would be my goal. But Doss, welcome. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to meet the real person. You're like a poster person. I recognize your face, and excited to have you here. But give us a little background about where you're from, a little bit about your family. People always find that interesting.
Sure. Well, my family is originally from Indonesia and Holland. They immigrated in the late 50s as part of the Marshall Plan. My grandfather was served in World War II in the Allied navies. And he was a POW in Japan, and his experience with Americans, his very good experience with Americans after the war, because essentially as a Indonesian, he was as a lower class to the Dutch in the colonial structure. So when he met Americans, it's very neat because it was the first white people who treated him something like an equal. That was a real mind-blowing experience. And he then eventually immigrated to the United States as part of the Marshall Plan. His and his wife's sponsor lived in Ojai. They had 3 girls, including my mom, and they never left Ojai.
Well, I'm glad they stayed.
And most of my family lives in Ventura County and has now there's a 4th generation that's here. And a couple of us black sheep moved to the big city over in Santa Barbara, so I spent my teen years growing up in Isla Vista, and have currently live in Carpinteria because that's right in the middle of my district. My district runs from Oxnard and Fillmore and Piru all the way up through Ventura, Santa Barbara, all the way to Los Alamos. So if there's surf or wine grapes, it's probably in my district.
You know what? I like you more you talk. Now, do you come from a big family, brothers, sisters? I mean, you are the youngest, or how does it stand?
A big extended family, like most immigrant families, right? But not a big immediate family. I have a brother and a half brother.
Okay. So that's a good thing. And so, you're involved in a lot of things. And, when I read your profile, education is something you're involved with. But if you had to pick like 3 main things that are your focus for now and in the future, what would you say those top 3 categories are we can discuss?
Well, that's easy to do. The top being our energy and natural resources. Very important to this district, and I have just been given the chairmanship of the Natural Resources Committee. Secondly, a focus for many years has been on trying to improve our higher education system and make sure it continues to deliver the best kind of education to create the best kind of economy in the state. And third, I also am involved with and continue to be involved with our local schools, our local school priorities. I've done bills, and I've served many years as chair of not as chair, but as one of the members of the Assembly Education Committee.
No, that's interesting because 2 of them are very well connected. But can I start off with the energy aspect of it? What things are currently in place that you're very encouraged, and then what things, maybe longer term goals, do you think you have to build on that?
The thing that we worked on in the last, I'd say 4 years is increasing the amount of renewable energy. The state is on track to get to 1/3 of its energy by renewable sources by 2020. Some of us would like to see that go to 50% by 2030, and that's created a lot of jobs. If you had asked how many solar jobs there were in this district maybe 10 years ago, it would have been a handful. And nowadays it's well over 1,300 direct jobs. If you include all, more, energy efficiency and alternative energy jobs in general, not just solar, then we're talking about a few thousand jobs right here in Western Ventura County and Southern Santa Barbara County. And that's really good for an areas, where there's not a whole lot of concentration of businesses, of where the jobs are besides maybe the university. That's a real big number.
No, I would just build on what you're saying, and I can't help being selfish, but my wife just bought a fully electric car.
Oh, good. Good. I drive electric.
I saw that, and I think it's the same color. Fiat.
That's right.
That was probably too much information.
That's okay. My wife drives an all-electric Fiat, and I have that today. It's a very cute car. Women love it. It's the color of orange fingernail polish. I drive a Volt because I need a little bit more range to get up to Sacramento.
That is very
But I'm
true.
planning on going all electric as soon as I can. There'll be another all electric vehicle called the Bolt with a B coming out for 33 grand.
Wow.
That'll get 200 miles, no gas, all electric. I would love to have a Tesla. I can't afford that, but a Bolt is definitely in the cards for us.
My brother from another mother. Oh my gosh! But just like it was great to talk about the cars and just the connection between having providing a vehicle, but then having solar that's paying for the gas,
right?
And that would create construction jobs, people coming in and doing the work to do it. I mean, this is not a real difficult task that's coming forth. So this is not like we're sending somebody to a distant galaxy, so to speak. This is something that can happen. At least I'm thinking about it.
And that's why, some people think if they want to make things better for the environment that we will have to lose jobs. We can create the right kind of jobs. Last year I did a bill to require local governments. Some local governments were actually getting recycling credit for putting green waste in a landfill, right? The whole purpose of recycling is to get stuff out of a landfill.
Oh yeah,
right? And you probably take the trouble of separating your trash from your green waste.
Yeah.
You'd be pretty miffed if your local government then just threw them in the same place.
I'd be miffed if they say, just to let you know. I just think that's a good measure to have, and I think there's a lot of good incentives.
So we're doing a lot of work to make sure that those green waste does not go in the landfill. And actually that creates jobs. CalRecycle has estimated that the bill that I did last year to require local governments not to get, essentially it made sure they did not get recycling credit for putting stuff in the landfill. That alone will create about 14,000 jobs in the next few years because of growth of green waste. One local business, Agromin, is one of those places that does green waste recycling, creates compost to be used by local farmers and other businesses. And we could do a lot more of that. And a lot of people don't know that organic waste, food waste and green waste, is the biggest source of methane in the state, right? So one of the best ways that we can combat climate change is just not putting food waste in the trash can and making sure that you separate your green waste so that it goes to a proper recycling facility.
That's interesting. So like if we segue to education, there are two things. Number one is the fact that education seems to be the thing that people are missing with the let's call it the environmental sustainability types of behavior. I didn't know that, but educating the masses. But then realize when you say 4,000 jobs, those are probably 14,000. Woo, boy, I am really bad with numbers. But just that some of those, I would guess, would be jobs that don't exist right now, but are going to come up.
That's right.
So just to segue to your third item, which was local education. In regards to teaching, what would you say some of the measures would be to really start taking some action within the pre-higher education world?
Well, not everything about educational success is about money.
Okay.
But it's hard to create educational success without money. And so we have really, as the first year I was there was very tough. We had to cut a lot of things in order to balance the budgets.
Right.
The growth since then in the budget has we've largely put into K through 12 education. So
Right.
K through 12 education has had a dramatic increase in funding in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And also all the borrowing the state did from education is being paid back. The budgetary debt of the state should be taken care of at the end of this fiscal year. So essentially, in the last 3 years, we're paying off the debt of the previous 10. And so we think we're making responsible financial solutions, but also prioritizing our kids.
Right.
The other thing is we are adopting the Common Core curriculum. The Common Core is an attempt to get beyond rote learning. Right?
Good point.
So-
Why do we say that?
As an employer, I want someone who can think critically, right? Who, when a problem comes up, doesn't just ask me, what am I supposed to do? But tries to think through how they would solve the
Right.
problem.
Right.
Rote learning does not help with that, right?
Right.
So what Common Core's focus is on is actual critical thinking. And so even when it's a normal math problem, they want to put it in the context of a real world situation. The adoption of Common Core is not without costs. So we have provided monies to local jurisdictions for that adoption. It's not without change, because obviously teachers are going to change, and it's also will change the testing system that we have. But I do think it will be much more accurate about where we really are. And I think sometimes parents might freak out because their kid won't be doing as well as they were doing on those easy rote learning memorization tests, right? Because they actually have to think through a problem. But I'd rather have people doing less well on tests, but have it spur the right kind of learning.
Yeah, it seems like the challenge, Das, would be to keep people, our students, encouraged, versus focusing on the average or the C. It's just like, good job, you're making progress.
That's right.
Type of thing. So, what do you think some of the practical activities that should be happening? Let's take it, say K to 8. What should the classroom look like? What do the teachers look like? And is that a fair question to ask?
Absolutely. I think that what a classroom should look like is a place where students are having to interact on a pretty regular basis. The human attention span, particularly in this day and age, it's not meant to deal with someone writing on a chalkboard for 40 minutes, right?
Right.
But when you have interaction, when you are actually required to participate in what's going on in class, if there is, I do recommend multimedia mediums, though that should not be a crutch for just a teacher that's engaging and can communicate things.
So the role of the teacher, do you think, is going to change in regards to their style, the methodologies they use?
Yes, I think the challenging thing is that as money has gone back to districts, some districts have chosen to do that and use that money for class size reduction, which means that we are having a massive shortage of teachers, especially now as baby boomers are retiring. And so really the quality of teachers could go down if we expand too many classes very quickly.
That's a good point.
So my feeling is that you want to make sure that we're getting good quality trained teachers to meet this demand and to make the demand grow steadily, not suddenly. So I do think the role of teachers has changed, and I think a lot of teachers recognize that and are keeping up with the times.
No, I would agree. And so I've just taken you through a little bit of the K to 12. Now somebody's entering high school now, and maybe some people might consider that the highest level of education a student's going to get. But will be there some different things going on between the 9th and 12th grade?
Well, I want to say first and most important that there is absolutely no kid that should be aiming just at high school as the top.
Okay.
I don't care if you want to get into a trade.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to get into a trade and get into a good paying job is to get some certificate beyond
Mm-hmm.
high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why a good higher education system is so vital for our local kids. It's why I want to mention that there is financial aid available for students, local students, to be able to attend UC, CSU, community college, or other programs. And the most important thing is to fill out a FAFSA and apply for Cal grants.
Mm-hmm.
The deadline is March 2nd. So people will get out there. If people want some help locally, they can call our Ventura office at 641-3700, 3700 for the 37th district. And
way to do it, nice.
Because really, if you look at the data, despite all this stuff you hear about, like, tech whizzes that didn't get anything beyond a high school education, statistically that is an aberration. Statistically, people who get 2 years more education or 4 more years education or 6 more years education beyond high school make more money.
No,
and you know what? The other thing is they're better for the economy too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because what is driving our state's economic growth? The tech sector in Silicon Valley and San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
What drove it before that? The aerospace industry.
Right.
Right? And all of these are jobs and are industries that are dependent upon the right kind of labor pool. So the way I think about it is, Texas has wind and oil.
Right.
We have our students. Mm-hmm. That is our best natural resource.
Diversity.
That is what makes companies want to locate in California. And so making our higher education system work is not just important for our kids, it's important for our economic growth. Because that's the reason why we're going to get good businesses that pay good money in Ventura County.
No, and I think that was a great explanation, and I want to kind of pre-apologize to you because I've taken 2 subjects and I've kind of transitioned to them, and I think you did a really good job of what higher education is.
Yeah.
It doesn't always mean, again, UC Santa Barbara, because I know you're a gaucho. I went to a state school, so I'm inferior.
CSUs are really important. One of the things that people don't realize is that CSUs, there's so many of them, and they really reflect the diversity of the state of California. The UCS, but that's happening at the UCs too. UCSB is now a Latino serving institution. This is an institution that in the 70s you could count the amount of Latinos with 2 hands.
Right? Last time I said a gaucho was in European.
Yes.
so
and now it's a Latino serving institution. So things are changing for the better in both the UC and CSU system. The problem is that right now they are in a massive quandary.
Right.
Because the state is not giving them enough funding, they have to choose between either raising fees or enrolling fewer students. And as much as I don't like that the UC is considering raising fees, what the CSU is doing is even worse. They're cutting back enrollment. So affordability doesn't mean anything if you there's no seat for you, right?
It's true.
And so we have to protect affordability, but we have to even more protect access itself. And so if people, if you have a kid who's applying, or if you're just concerned about this, you should call the governor's office, because there is enough money in our budget for higher education, but the governor hasn't been ready to give it to them yet. And we need to make that step.
No, I think what you've encouraged in this situation is defining what higher education is. It could be somebody who's going into a mentorship you know. And I think what I'm hearing you saying is if you invest in it tuition-wise, there better be something that comes up afterwards
Right.
that matches, and not something inferior. But with that, we talked about sustainable energy, we talked about higher education, and we talked about local education. Is there a last few sentences here? Because I'm getting the sign that unfortunately our time has come to an end. But
Well,
give us a
it's been an
closing word.
honor to hang out. We still do a lot of local things. So we just, Senator Jackson and myself last year worked together to get some funds for Port Hueneme so the beach doesn't wash away.
a good
You
way
guys
to put it.
probably have watched that over the last couple of years.
Gotta have sand, gotta have
and so
sand.
we've been protecting the coast in that way. And Senator Jackson and myself got together in the same way to help get the Kachuma pump so, that the water still comes out of the tap in Santa Barbara County. We're trying to meet the local emergency needs when they come up as well. And we'll continue to do that work. And if people want to contact us, we have a real convenient location, California Street in Santa Clara in downtown Ventura, right below the Coastal Commission. And we are available business hours, or you can give us a call or visit my website. We have a lot of good information
It is a
on
lot
my
of good
website. So Google Dos Williams and you'll find it.
No, I love it. When I first heard you were coming, I said, get out of here, Bob. But I'd like to invite you back for updates, if that's okay.
I'd love that.
And with that, thank you so much for just viewing us. Again, this is Peter Godinez with KADY TV, ambassador with Dos Williams.